Totally. Queenie, good morning to you.
Morning.
How are you?
Very good, thanks. Yeah.
We kind of knew that we were going to win those two games. We just wanted to see what the performance was like and who was going to be fit before we get to New Zealand. So sometimes there's a temptation to brush past it, but we probably shouldn't. We should maybe dig into the performance a little bit, considering there were so many changes. Was it a good performance, a reasonable performance? What do you think?
I'd say reasonable. They definitely lacked a little bit of edge, and I think when you make the 7 changes, obviously there'll be more changes next week, and there was some key players rested and trying to manage bench, people coming off the bench and all that kind of stuff. I think they'll be a little bit frustrated, but ultimately the goal was to get 2 results and 2 bonus point wins, and they did that. South Africa beating Italy yesterday, which was a little bit of a shock, I think, given where they are recently, South Africa. It's either France or South Africa now for Ireland and New Zealand. So, I don't think they'll dwell too much. I think there's a couple of things that, if you go back to that WXV win against New Zealand, what they'll need to bring, they'll know this. They won't need me to say it. And I think the whole emotional pitch will raise during the week, and there will be that bite and that edge that's needed to win these kind of games, or to become really competitive, because they've got to be on song against New Zealand next week. The reward is, if you beat New Zealand, you play South Africa, and obviously you have to be careful here because this South Africa team is not perceived to be as powerful as it could be. They've had issues in the last couple of years with funding and all that kind of stuff. We know Lynn Cantwell was out there working with them, trying to make changes and improve them. I think it's a little bit like the men's probably 10 years ago. If they get their stuff in order, they have the players and the quality to improve. But they're still under day. South Africa will say, great, write us off, whoever we're playing, Ireland or New Zealand. But I think there's some issues. I think kicking the ball 17 times in 2 games out of hand, and I mentioned this on Friday last week as well. You've got to tactically play in the right areas, and I think Ireland, this Irish team, are putting a little bit of pressure on themselves where they're not kicking well out of particularly off the base of rucks, box kicking. They're relying on Dana O'Brien a lot. You could see Spanish players shooting out of the line, putting massive pressure on that left boot yesterday, and she has a great boot, to be fair. Having an option of making a pass to a centre who can kick cross field and find a little bit of space would be brilliant as well. But I think just off the base of rucks and kick receipts were really poor yesterday, and they resulted in tries for Spain off the back of them. So you score a try and then
you caught possession of.
Yeah, you do, and it's a coach's nightmare, really. And even when I played, it's always the focus is when you receive that kickoff, it can take the sting out of the opposition. You've just scored against them, win that kickoff secured, and then try and get down the field again, and they're back defending. Whereas they can come alive if the opposition drop the ball and there's a scrum and they say, right, we can get back into this. And that happened a few times yesterday. At least twice, possibly 3 times.
How much of that is down to the turnover in the team? Because we played the clip earlier on. Scott Beeman was coming out, and you could hear the team in the background singing. So there's a great togetherness there.
Yeah,
because they've all played now.
Of course.
Everybody felt like we were going to get a game. It wasn't like we have our first 15 and we have our subs, and that's going to be the team for the 3 games. So there's an upside to.
Absolutely, and Gerard, look, to be honest, if you give Ireland look, if they had a sublime performance yesterday and they were brilliant, I think he'd still be making the changes back to probably similar. The Japan starting team are close to that. I think there's very little between some of the girls.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of players there that make a real kind of difference. Will Aoife Wafer be back involved? It's a big ask for her if you were to say, right, she's going to train, if she trains this week and she integrates back in the team. What a player, what power, what strength. It gives you that real edge and that physical presence.
We're not going to win without it, right?
There's no point in... well, you see, the other side of this is you're in a quarter-final either way. So do you sit her on the bench and say, bring her on for 20 minutes, or do you hope that the girls can be there? And what a boost it would be coming on, or it'll start her the psychological support and lift. But when you haven't played for a long time, it's tricky. But I think some of the issues that they had yesterday are definitely fixable. And they looked like a team that just laboured at times. Some really good moments. It wasn't a dreadful performance or anything.
No,
it seems like they switched on, switched off.
Yeah.
And I think Scott Beeman kind of alluded to that. They call it a flip-flop performance. I would have preferred to have that little bit of edge and that bit of ambition and energy. They lacked a little bit of energy and they looked like they were a little bit flat. But overall, next week has to go up about 5 gears, to be honest.
Yeah. Let's hear from Elena Perry here. She is talking to Susanna. She ended up being player of the match in the aftermath of the game, won a couple of scrum penalties up against the most powerful / strongest front rower in the tournament by all accounts. So here she is. Have a listen.
Okay, well, how was that player of the match? What was it like?
Yeah, I was surprised to get playing match, but yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, it's a really tough game. Spain put a really physical battle against us, and we were expecting that all week. But yeah, they fought really hard to the end. So yeah, we're lucky and grateful for the win. But yeah, it was good.
And first start of this World Cup, what's the competition been like in that front row?
Yeah, it's really competitive. Obviously got Nevo, Dow, Noddy and Siobhan McCarthy. But yeah, obviously every week we're training, we're always asking each other questions. So it's really nice balance and really nice competition.
And are you gunning to start in that New Zealand game? Is that the aim?
Yeah, I think it's everyone's aim to start the matches, but we'll see. We've got another big week of training and lots more to learn, so we'll see what happens.
And how have you found... Sorry, I'll let you in now in a second. How have you found being in and around the Ireland squad, because it's still quite new?
Yeah, I've only been in about 5-6 weeks. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, but yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving my time here, and it's a really great bunch of girls. So yeah, I'm relishing every second.
And has it been hard at all, catching up and getting that cohesion of players that have obviously played together for a while versus coming in?
Yeah, I think obviously, as I said, the girls have been in class with me. They've been so helpful, helping me with all little bits of detail. And at the first, as I said, it's a bit of a whirlwind. But I think as week goes on and training weeks go on, I feel every session I do, I feel a lot more comfortable with the girls and everything. So yeah, it's been good.
Okay, amazing. Just last question for me. Is there any differences that you notice between kind of being in that England setup and then being over here in the Irish setup?
Yeah, obviously it's been a while since I was in the England setup, but it's very similar, but there's small differences. But yeah, it's nothing too different. But as I said, it's been really nice to get to know the girls and everything. So it's been class. Thank you.
You get player of the match. Do you suddenly become a potential starter against New Zealand, or is it just proper strength and depth on the bench now?
I think it's probably... She had a very good performance. She made 19 tackles. Very powerful, physical. The Irish scrum was very, very strong yesterday. They got a number of scrum penalties. But I think Neva Dowd is probably the starter with Elena Perry coming off the bench. But it was a good performance, really good performance from her. I think Sam Monaghan be worrying if she doesn't come through. She took a couple of heavy knocks. She got lifted up in the air, one tackle. I think she came down on her leg. Another Spanish player came down on that leg again, and she was hobbling a little bit, but she would certainly be a loss as well. So, look, it's about getting the bumps and bruises now, and I think Scott Beeman is very relaxed and calm. I think he's done a great job with this team, and making those changes probably disjointed things a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get that kind of perfect performance, but from a morale point of view, getting plenty of game time in many of the other girls within this group certainly helps. I know there's a few that haven't, but yeah, I think they'll be relatively pleased, sure, to be honest. Spain were very physical. I think that's probably another area that, there's a couple of things you can control: your own physicality, attitude, all that kind of stuff. The mistakes and the turnovers, I wouldn't dwell on them too much. Stacey Flood knocked on the ball twice from kind of uncharacteristic mistakes, a little bit flat, but worrying that the little bit of kicking tactics, that edge that's needed around the breakdown was a little bit off. So that's a mental thing, I think. It's not a technical thing, because I think they've improved dramatically in last couple of years with their physical presence at the breakdown and their technique. So it obviously goes up a number of levels, doesn't it, next week? But they're in a really good place, I think, and they'll be pleased this morning. It's about recovery now and maybe looking back at the videos, and you've got to analyse and be critical of each other about certain parts of work rate and technique, and lost their shape a little bit at times in attack, particularly off, when they're trying to have strike plays off the tail of lineouts and stuff like that. Players overrunning, just lost a little bit of shape. But I don't think it's that dramatic. It's kind of like we've this one done now and we move forward, and this is the big one. Yeah. And I think the question which was asked, would Ireland kind of put out a weakened team against New Zealand with the changes that he made, half the starting team on Friday, with that team announcement indicates that
they're not going to do that.
They rotated a bit there. The minutes that the players have under their belt, they're going to go full tilt, I think, against New Zealand. And you still may lose the game and still end up finishing second in the pool and playing France. But given what Ireland did in the Six Nations, I know France are very, very powerful and very, very skillful, and we've spoken about them in England for years in the Six Nations, how dominant they've been.
If you're going to have a moment where you shock everybody, it's more likely going to be in the group than it is in a quarterfinals. But France are going to come to a quarterfinal against us going, we're here to win this tournament. We're not taking this lightly.
Yeah, but you know what? I think this team, I'd fancy them to give France a real go if they ended up playing them. Look, we're talking a couple of weeks ahead. When they get through this pool stages, if they can stay intact against New Zealand and get a little bit of luck on the injury front, be really in the game, they'll have a chance, because a little bit of doubt with New Zealand. Obviously, we've seen in the men's game, when you beat New Zealand in a game, there's a reaction, and there will be a strong physical reaction from them. But it'll be a real test to see where they're at, because you're dealing not just with the physical pressure, but the mental pressure of competing in a big tournament like this against, have they won it 5 or 6 times? New Zealand. So that'll be a real test for them next week.
Just on Linda and Djougan, I spoke to her, Quinny, ahead of the Six Nations earlier this year. 50th cap yesterday. An amazing story. She came to Ireland from Cameroon at the age of 9. She didn't have a word of English. She ends up Googling what rugby is. Obviously, she's got the physicality. She's been working in nursing. And she's been there for all the lows, including the Spain defeat 4 years ago, and the highs now of being at a World Cup again.
Yeah, it's a lovely situation for her, and she's done remarkably well. I've been involved with the Tackle Your Feelings programme at Rugby Players Ireland. Linda is involved in that as well. I've met her a few times in involvement with that programme. She's been, she's a lovely person, and what a career she's had, and to reach that milestone through, as you say, John, through difficult times, because it's not long ago we had a lot of drama and controversy and talking points about the setup where the Irish women's game was, and the treatment and all that kind of stuff, facilities, support networks. But I think she's been through a bit of a roller coaster. So it's lovely to see that the hard work, the dedication has paid off for her, and she's been brilliant. She's a real cornerstone of this team. We always say it about tight heads, and she's been brilliant. She's constantly on working hard, turning up to make the hard yards when rucks are slow and a strong defensive line. So it's a lovely situation, a great moment for her, and she's worked incredibly hard to get this far.
Susanna actually caught up with her after the game. We can have a look at that now.
I love the little cap on your head. What does it feel like?
It feels amazing. Such an honour, especially doing it here at the world biggest stage, especially with the girls. Honestly, it's been incredible. What a journey, to be honest. So hard to describe, but honestly, I wouldn't have achieved what I achieved if it wasn't for them. If it wasn't for the management giving me opportunity, it wasn't for my first cap, it wasn't for this young girl dreaming and dreaming big. So I'm grateful for everybody, to be honest, for pushing me, driving me. It's been a tough journey, but it's all worth it. So I'm kind of glad. Putting this car, I was like, it's worth it. The journey is worth it. Tough game today, but God, we really dig hard. To be honest, we just really wanted to win and get ourselves to quarterfinal, and it's exactly what we did. And even to make it more special, getting my 50th cap, doing that is so much more special. It's something that I definitely remember for the rest of my life. And especially sharing this moment with the girls, I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity to be able to lead them. Honestly, the energy is just buzzing. The atmosphere is buzzing. We're happy. But also we have so much to learn from this game. It wasn't easy. So we enjoy today and then focus on next week because we know what's ahead of us. Yeah.
Were you dancing inside there?
We definitely were dancing. I think we're all soaking in, and I think the World Cup is so special. So I think that it's so important for us to celebrate a win, no matter how we get it. It's important for us to regroup and celebrate the week, the hard work, the hard training that we did, but also enjoy the win, and we move on. We go and do our analysis. We fix the wrong, and that's what we do. And we focus on the next game next week. So that's really important for us.
I was just looking at the odds for the tournament there. England are 4-1 on to win it. Second favourites are New Zealand. France are about 18-1 and we're 66-1. So that'll tell you what the money thinks is going to happen. What do you think he picks the strongest team first off for New Zealand?
Yeah, I think so, because if you don't and you take any sort of chances, you're messing around with karma a little bit and stuff like that. I think he has to have a go and really believe that they have a chance. And if they come up short, just hope that you get through the game. You get that kind of battle-hardened, tough scenario. Ireland have had two kind of physical tests, and I think he'd probably be pleased by that physicality yesterday. A little bit frustrated at times that Ireland were kind of edged back in certain areas in the maul. Took him a while to get a couple of turnovers at the breakdown. A little bit passive in the tackling around the fringes. So, look, I think for me anyway, I'm not sure what Scott Beeman. I'm pretty sure from what we've seen with the selection going into this game that they'll go strong for New Zealand. I would, and have a real go at it really. And it's a massive test. It wasn't that long ago, Ger, that we were talking about really indifferent performances from an Irish women's team. So enjoy it, embrace it, and put your best foot forward. I think even though it's a pool game, you're still in the quarterfinals. So it's a kind of a psychological challenge as well.
Next Sunday afternoon, 2:45, that one. So they're ranked third in the world and we're currently ranked fifth. On Saturday morning, it is New Zealand versus South Africa in the Rugby Championship, the two best teams in the world. This should be a decent game.
Yeah, it should be. I think bit
of spice.
I was reading an article that Jerry Flannery did a bit of press at the weekend, and just talking about the improvements that are needed. South Africa, I think, you've got to be careful here because they're still an incredibly talented, powerful, physical side. I think they were exposed a little bit maybe surprised a little bit by Australia as well. We all were.
There's a case that they're home and hose coasting against a team who never beat them, especially where they were, and they were just a bit complacent.
But Australia showed us. I think Australia showed in the second and third test that there's something there, and Joe Schmidt had found that some really positive ingredients. They got a little bit more match fit together. So I think obviously when you play South Africa, the atmosphere, it's intimidating, and then the physicality, and so many World Cup winners who are just phenomenally ferocious at what they do around the contact points. And that's always the fear when you play them. Australia stepped up. I think maybe they switched off a little bit. They were in a comfortable position, South Africa, at half-time in Johannesburg. But I wasn't surprised in a sense that Australia would have a real go, and some of that quality that they have in that back line really stepped up. But I think, the edge that's needed when you play them, you've got to be really physical against South Africa. So they exposed a little bit of maybe mentally switching off a little bit. And there, at times when you're a very successful team, and they have been incredibly successful since the World Cup, at times you get a performance out of South Africa that you can find a way to beat them, and you can get opportunities. Ireland did it in South Africa last year in the second test. But the question mark will be how they perform in New Zealand now. And I think, Rassie always spoke about the importance in his journey of winning in New Zealand and making a real statement leading into World Cup. So should be a cracker of a game. And obviously with Argentina beating New Zealand in Buenos Aires the last time, it makes that Australia-Argentina, those matches really important as well and exciting.
This is the last rugby championship as well, isn't it? Or will it be one the year of the World Cup?
No, I think they'll still play them. They'll probably be earlier in that summer when the World Cup is on. So
there's none next summer. So it's the new
Nations League is going to be on. So there will be actually. It's not going to be called a rugby championship. But you'll still see the similar games. But that should be a cracker of a game. South Africa and New Zealand and South Africa next Saturday morning.
2 years, 1 month to the day to the World Cup starts. We're into the cycle, Quinny.
Yeah.
Get this argument. Who's on the depth chart?
This is always the bottom of the South Africa. They're like, this bit doesn't matter, and then they bounce back, and we're like, oh, geez.
I'm thinking of Ireland here. I'm thinking of Ireland now.
But they're so amazing, Razzie. You're all amazing. You all have lovely bottoms.
Well, the depth that South Africa have it's always been there, and it's just getting that timing right. They've made so many changes. The thing for Ireland, John, and it's a very early part of the year to be asking this. We'll know a little bit more when the provinces are back. Is there one or two players that maybe might force their way into Andy Farrell's reckoning?
Did anybody enhance their Irishness in terms of being more important than they were from the Lions?
I think Jamie Osborne showed that he's a top quality international, and he became a British and Irish line. And I think he's a massive player for Ireland going forward. A real presence, physical presence, but also just the quality and the composure that he possesses. The concern is, and it's a very obvious one, we don't have a young squad. There's players that are going to be kind of well into their 30s at the World Cup if they're selected and brought there. I think it was hard to judge what happened against Georgia and Portugal in the summer series, but with some of those emerging Ireland tours in the last couple of years, there's been a few players that have been exposed, and it's 2 years. It seems like a long time. It's not. It rolls around quickly. So if you get a couple of players in the mix, you're not going to have 7 or 8 new players automatically in a group, but come World Cup, you hope that you get a bit of experience and you find some gems that can change that age profile a little bit, or at least put pressure on players who are heading into their 30s.
Yeah. All right. We do have a little bit of time to talk about the World Cup.
Yeah, it's a long way out.
Men's World Cup. Quinny, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Cheers. Thanks, lads.
Cheers, Quinny.
Off the Ball Breakfast is with UPMC Orthopedic